Welcome to Alpha Insights. I'm Lane. Today we're looking at some big moves in communications and media, everything from massive satellite plans to enterprise AI deals. With me is Drew, a tech sector analyst who follows these stories closely. Remember, if you have questions as we go, you can ask us at stockalpha.ai.
Thanks, Lane. Great to be here. There's a lot packed into today's headlines, and it really centers on two themes: infrastructure that scales data capacity and software that turns AI into repeatable enterprise revenue.
Let's start with the space angle. Blue Origin laid out something called TerraWave. What is that in plain terms, and why should investors care?
TerraWave is basically a plan for a very large satellite network. We're talking about 5,408 satellites in low and medium Earth orbit, designed to deliver roughly 6 terabits per second of total capacity. The idea is to offer high throughput, low latency links to things like data centers and big enterprise customers, places where fiber doesn't reach or where you need a resilient global overlay.
So it's not about letting your phone stream movies better, it's more enterprise and data transport focused.
Exactly. Consumer connectivity is part of the market, but at that scale, they're pitching to carriers, data centers, cloud providers, and large enterprises that need big, sometimes global, connectivity. For investors, it signals a potential expansion of market demand, but it also raises the bar on capital and execution.
Execution is a good segue. AST Space Mobile announced a Block 2 Bluebird will ride on Blue Origin's New Glenn rocket. Why does that matter beyond the press release?
A launch commitment like that is a tangible operational step. For AST SpaceMobile, getting a Block 2 satellite into orbit means they can progress toward commercial services, roaming deals, and wholesale revenues with mobile operators. Those revenue streams can be recurring and meaningful, but each launch is a milestone. If there are delays or on-orbit problems, timelines and investor expectations shift quickly.
For listeners trying to weigh risk, what's the biggest uncertainty with these mega constellation plays?
Three big things: launch schedules, on orbit reliability, and regulatory or spectrum coordination. Building thousands of satellites is capital intensive, and you need reliable hardware, clear spectrum rights, and tight launch cadence. If any of those slip, the economics change. So patience matters, and you want companies that show technical progress and contract traction.
Switching gears to AI for enterprises, IBM teamed up with Ian to deploy Watson X Orchestrate for governance, risk, and compliance. What's the investor angle there?
This is a classic move from proof of concept to operational deployment. Governance, risk, and compliance are big line items for carriers and large companies. If watsonx Orchestrate can automate workflows, reduce manual effort, and speed up compliance processes, IBM stands to win recurring software and services revenue. For investors, that matters because recurring revenue often supports higher margins and predictability versus one-off projects.
What should investors look for as early signals that these AI pilots are scaling?
Look for measurable outcomes in pilot reports, percent reductions in compliance processing time, headcount reallocation, or error reduction. Also watch for multi-jurisdiction rollouts and contract structures that include ongoing licenses or managed services, not just a one-time implementation fee.
Entertainment and governance also popped up today. Disney disclosed CEO pay rose by about 11.5% to $45.8 million, and the board is preparing to name a successor. How material is that to investors?
The pay number is a governance headline, but the more consequential part is succession. Who replaces the CEO will shape strategy. From content investment to streaming economics and cost discipline, investors will parse the successor's background to infer whether the company leans more into growth, cost cuts, or licensing, and that can drive sentiment and near-term moves in the stock.
Any other media items worth noting?
Yes, awards season and programming performance still matter. Oscar nominations and changes in broadcast ratings influence advertising mixes and streaming promotion strategies. Those are more tactical, but they feed into revenue trends for studios and some streaming platforms.
Putting it all together, what's the investment playbook here? How should listeners think about exposure to satellite infrastructure versus enterprise AI versus content companies?
Be selective. For satellite infrastructure, prioritize firms with clear launch roadmaps, secured spectrum or partner agreements, and signs of wholesale or enterprise contracts. Expect a multi-year horizon. For enterprise AI, favor vendors that can demonstrate recurring revenue and measurable cost savings. For content, watch leadership decisions and audience metrics. Across the board, execution proof points, launches, contract wins, pilot results are the triggers that turn potential into value.
Before we go, what are the near-term catalysts listeners should watch?
Track a few things: board announcements around Disney's succession, launch timelines, and any regulatory updates for Blue Origin and AST Space Mobile, pilot results or case studies from IBM and its partners, and content performance data around ratings and awards season. Any of those can move stocks quickly.
Great, let's wrap with 3 quick takeaways for our listeners.
1. Large satellite projects signal long-term demand for data transport, but they're capital-intensive and require successful launches to justify valuations. 2. Enterprise AI is shifting from experiments to operational automation. Look for recurring contracts and measurable efficiency gains. 3. For media companies, governance and leadership changes can be as important as content wins in shaping strategy and investor sentiment.
Thanks, Drew. And listeners, if you have questions about anything we discussed today, you can ask us directly at stockalpha.ai. We answer listener questions live. And for more market insights, head over to stockalpha.ai. I'm Lane. You are listening to Alpha Insights.